Now, last Wednesday, Minister of Health Terence Singh announced that 862 children aged 5 to 11 years had received the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine since the rollout started on May 25th. Now, while it has only been week 2 of administering the vaccines, reports indicate there is a low turnout at vaccination sites. But here to share the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine is pediatrician and neonatologist Dr. Petronella Manning-Alleyne. Dr. Manning-Alleyne has been in pediatrics for over 40 years. She is a graduate of the University of the West Indies Mona campus. She continued her education at Columbia University in New York in pediatrics and neonatal and perinatal medicine. She was also the co-director of the Division of Neonatology at Harlem Hospital Center in New York, and she is the past president of the Pediatric Society, where she held the presidency for over 10 years. Dr. Manning-Alleyne, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the Now Morning Show.
Good morning, Kimberly. Correction, I'm not the president of the Pediatric Society.
I think I said past, right?
Past.
Yeah, past.
Sorry?
Yeah, past president.
Yes.
Yes. So past president of the Pediatric Society, where you held the presidency for 10 years?
Yes, right. Indeed.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's just jump right in. I mean, how important is vaccination for children? I mean, with your years of experience, I know you could probably share some more details on this.
Vaccination actually is something that has given children long life. We, in the distant past, we were plagued by many different problems, and we can still see the evidence of some of those around. We had polio, for example. There's a former Minister of Health who had polio vaccine, and it left him with the debilitations with respect to his mobility and his function. He actually was in my class in medical school, so that we have that is obvious. David Rudder, for example, put out a statement within this period here that let us know that the reason why he has that difficulty with his walk was because he also was a victim of polio. So that we have facing us right now today two people who have the residue of that infection, so that we could appreciate to some extent how significant that was. But the leading cause of death in infants in the late mid-1980s, which is relatively recently, was indeed measles. And it's not only the children who succumb to measles, but adults also were plagued with measles. And so vaccination against measles has made measles something that seems to people currently it makes it seem as though measles is obsolete, but it's not. We are very well aware of the fact that about 2 or 3 years ago, we had large communities of people in the United States and elsewhere, in New York City actually and elsewhere, who were anti-vaxxers as far as the measles vaccine was concerned, and they had a lot of morbidity as a result of that.
No.
It has also been published sometime in the past where somebody's child had not been given the diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus vaccine, and their child contracted the diphtheria and actually succumbed to it. And the mother put out a statement suggesting to people that if she had known that that was the potential outcome, she would not have avoided giving her child the vaccine.
Now, Dr. Manning-Alleyne, you actually mentioned, some anti-vaxxers. Why do you think people will be against vaccination? Because it seems as if some of the side effects might be, swollen injection sites or even rashes. But there are some people who may have more concerns. I mean, what are some of the concerns that parents often come to you with as reasons why they might not want their children to be vaccinated?
I have a controlled practice. I have a practice which uses in which teaching is significant. So in my long career, I have had only 2 anti-vaxxers. One actually was from New York City, who was transient here, and I lost her to follow-up at some point. And the other one was a local. And on the eve of entering her child into secondary school, she came in and had the vaccination program completed in an accelerated way. So I have not been given reasons for people not having the vaccine, except that they are nervous. I haven't been given any finite reasons, any reasons that I can document. They just don't want to take the vaccine because they're scared of what, I'm not sure.
Now, as it relates to the 12 to 17 age group, for example, I know that one of the side effects or one of the things that children usually get after the COVID-19 vaccine is something called myocarditis. And I know it's not very common in the 5 to 11 age group, but can you share a little bit about what is myocarditis and why some parents may, not want to get their children vaccinated because of the possibility of this?
In truth and in fact, there are several children that I have seen over the years who have had some reason why I needed to send them to the cardiologist. Maybe I heard a little extra sound when I listened to the heart, and I send them along for special investigations. And there are enough times when those children have had fluid in the lining of the heart, which is what myocarditis is, as a result of viral infection. So we are walking around with myocarditis every day. And you find that it's not something that requires any treatment. It was not something that imposed any risks on the child. And when we subsequently repeated the study, and it was not to see whether the myocarditis or the fluid was still there, it was just in the normal course of things, then it had gone away. So myocarditis is very common, and it's relatively common, and it's a common complication. If I could use the word complication is a little bit too harsh, but it is something that occurs in the normal course of things when you've got a viral illness. So that I'm not aware that we have any significant issues because of the myocarditis. But for those who athletes, for example, the suggestion would be that maybe they should be calm for about a week or so after they took the vaccine.
Now, in terms of the dosage, though, for the pediatric vaccine, I was reading that it's a third of the shot, so that the younger children don't get the full dose of it.
Well, it's not a third; it's 0.3, and the bigger ones they get. So the point about it is that the smaller, they don't get a third of the dose. They get the appropriate dose for a child of that age or that size, so that the dosages of medications that we administer to adults is very, very, very different from the dosage of medications that we administer to children and administer to little children on an ongoing basis. So the children never get the adult dose in any medication, so that I don't find it at all surprising that as far as the vaccine is concerned, the dose for the child is smaller. And in my age group, because I deal with generally the majority of my children are under 2 years of age, we change the dosage of medication with increasing weight, so that even though all of the children in my practice will be under 2 years of age, they get different doses of medications that have to be prescribed. So that actually is a way of life.
Now, Doc, apart from, protecting you against the COVID-19 virus, are there any other benefits to getting the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine?
The other benefits is that you are protecting the people with whom you come into contact. So that once everybody is vaccinated, it means that everybody around has a smaller chance of having debilitating disease from the COVID. Because remember, COVID vaccine promises that you're not going to be so sick that you're going to have to be hospitalized, and you are less likely, you're less likely to succumb to the COVID virus if you have been vaccinated. And the figures that the Ministry of Health puts out on a daily basis speaks to that fact that they are very careful about giving us percentages. And you find that the biggest percentage, I think the last one that they put out, it's about better than 80% of the people who succumb to the virus were not at all or not completely vaccinated.
Now, I know that we do have some anti-vaxxers locally, and there was one group in particular that's saying that, since the country is reopening and we're moving towards, at the endemic state, then it mightn't be so essential or necessary for, that younger population to get vaccinated. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I did not at all agree to that, and I find the thinking flawed, because I suggested that what is the risk of contracting polio? What is the risk of contracting measles? What is the risk of contracting any of the diseases against which we are vaccinated? And the vaccination is what has decreased the risk. So that I don't know. And the other thing I don't know is, how are you going to identify which are the kids who are more likely to get COVID and therefore would require the vaccine? So we have no yardstick, number one. Number two, we second guess in WHO and we second guess in CDC. And I don't know that we have the wherewithal, we have the knowledge, the expertise to make that decision, so that we, I think, are under obligation to follow the guidelines of the World Health Organization and of the CDC with respect to how we handle immunization program. And I don't see that we should deviate from that. And then when things don't work out for us, say, oops, we are sorry. We just have to be on firm ground when we want to give people guidelines that affect their lives in the way in which not taking the vaccine is likely to accept their to impact on their lives.
And on the flip side, for those children who may have already contracted the COVID-19 vaccine, is it necessary for, the COVID-19 virus rather, is it necessary for them to go get the vaccine still, or would they have natural immunity at that point?
Except that COVID changes its behavior on an ongoing basis. So if you had one strain, it doesn't mean that you're not going to succumb to the next strain. So yes, you're not going to get lifelong immunity to COVID virus as in general. And so the vaccine is still recommended for people who have been ill from the COVID virus. And then there are people who have had COVID virus who have not been ill and who may not at all know that they had the COVID virus because they did not exhibit any signs that allowed it to identify them as people who were COVID positive. So that the recommendation is that everybody should indeed take the vaccine, adult and child.
Now, it's still early yet because it's only been week 2 of actually administering the pediatric vaccine. But what we've been seeing on the ground, of course, is that the uptake has been slow. What do you think the ministry can do to, encourage parents to bring children of that age group out to get vaccinated? Because according to the Minister of Health, at least 100,000 children of that age group are eligible, but we've only had about 800, maybe 900 so far. So what do you think the ministry can do to encourage parents to bring out their children more?
Well, the thing about it is that they just started giving the COVID vaccine, and I don't know how much of that meant. They're certainly not going for the vaccine in droves. One of the things is, of course, that children are now in school. So you find that they may be able to improve the vaccination rate by going to the schools and administering the vaccine like they used to do when I was small, actually. When I was small, they came to the schools and they vaccinated you. And the legal obligation in truth and in fact, what I'm trying to say is that Ministry of Health requires children to be vaccinated to come to school, and the law covers them for that. So I don't know, though, that people want to crack people over the head and make them take the COVID vaccine, but they are going to be within their legal rights if they insist that the children should have the vaccine. I really don't know what else they can do, because they have been very, very good about informing us about what is going on, and we have been seeing the objective evidence that the people who have not taken the vaccine are the ones who are having the most negative outcome. And I don't know that they can do any better than that, short of, as I said, mandating that because you're a child and because the law covers it, coming to the school and giving you the vaccine. But I don't know that they want to fall out from that, at least not at this time.
I remember speaking to the Minister of Health, and I think that they don't want to go in that direction in terms of adding it to the schedule, at least for school. So I guess we wait to see, what else can be done in that instance.
Well, I don't know what else can be done. You can't make somebody take the vaccine unless you have a legal right to do so. And if that is not an option, then I don't know how well they can persuade people. I have lent my voice to it because I think that I have influence over a significant number of people who, after 40 years, I've seen quite a large number of people, both publicly and privately. And so I lent my voice to the conversation so that we can have them feel comforted and have them take the vaccine, because I think actually that it is in the best interest of their children for them to accept the vaccine.
Dr. Manning-Alleyne, thank you so much for coming on the Now Morning Show and just sharing your thoughts and experience. It was really a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.
Thank you too.
And that was pediatrician and neonatologist Dr. Petronella Manning-Alleyne just giving her thoughts on the importance of the COVID-19 vaccine, especially for that 5 to 11 age group. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.